Hello, welcome. So if you go to the description below, there should be some links to the PDF here. As you notice my videos, I kind of move somewhat fast, and I know it's difficult to see, but I give you access to the PDF. So if you have two monitors, you can have one monitor side with the PDF that's open off my Google Drive, and then the other screen have me speaking, I guess. So excuse me. So first we're going to go to verse 27, and she shall confirm the covenant of many for 1 week. Okay, that's Christ, and in the midst of the week shall cause sacrifice and offering the seeds. Okay, so that's referring to the cross here. All right, when the first sacrifice is made, after that those lambs, they're considered an abomination. The word abomination, to do a word study, go back to the Old Testament. It's um, considered profanity worship or false worship. Alrighty, so the overspreading abomination at this point is they continue on with the animal sacrifices. These are people who deny Christ coming in the flesh. Alrighty, and so she'll make it desolate, and he shall make it desolate, and even until the consummation, that destruction temple, and that determined shall be poured out in desolate. So this continues on all the way through. Okay, and Paul points out their children are the desolate, 427, so they're in bondage to the Jerusalem that below. Okay, and he points out in the verse that the Jerusalem above is free in the mother of us all. Okay, so continue on over to here. Okay, continued, and so go to 2 Thessalonians 2. So now he beseech you, brethren. Now he's writing to the church of Thessalonica. He's not writing to you. Don't let your fallen nature get in the way. Hey, it's me. It's all about me. Don't do that. He's writing to the church of Thessalonica. Okay. Now beseech you, brethren, by the coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. Now this is the type of coming judgment that's based on their Jewish history. The type of judgment where God creates a situation for a physical entity to come along and destroy a nation. In this case, it's the temple about to be destroyed, and the Lord has already ascended back to the ancient days, and he's been given authority to execute judgment. So one of the things that entails, we learn from the book of Exodus of Pharaoh, God's able to allow a person to harden. So we look at Pharaoh. God created a miracle, and then God simply just took his hand away from Pharaoh's heart. Okay, by doing so, he allowed it to harden. And as you continue reading that story, Pharaoh actually hardened his own heart. So basically, you're on your own. Okay. So remember the Jewish people. He said we have no king but Caesar. Alrighty. So so basically, Christ. Okay. You rejected me. I'm handing you over to Caesar. So their hearts were naturally hardening over time. The one that God chose, though, he gave them the circumcision of the heart, and he gave them a new heart, and so they were. You have to understand Jewish culture like a tight-knit family. So they were willing to sacrifice, they were willing to help their brother and sister of the Jewish faith all the way to the end until I count down its exact days. Okay, and so by our gathering together onto them, so that they eventually end up in Pella. We'll get that in a little bit. So. All right, that you be not soon shaken in mind or be troubled, neither by spirit nor by word nor by letter, as from us, as that day of Christ is at hand. So it's getting close. It's at hand. All right, it's a time indicator. Does not mean 2,000 plus years later. All righty. So this is really referring to one of the things referring to is the brightness of it coming. Okay, right here. That no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come. So that doesn't mean that they were deceived, but just let them know, hey, it will not come except the following way takes place first. So this was written around 51 A.D. Alrighty, you go to a book of Romans, which is around 58 A.D. and 7 years later, and a couple passages point out the gospel has been fully preached. And in Colossians chapter 1 verse 5 and 6, Colossians chapter 1 verse 23, the gospel has been preached throughout the whole empire, every creature under heaven, as you will. But what is that really? What are the boundaries really? The Greek word oikomene is what's used in Luke chapter 2 verse 1, where the census takes place. And so if you want to see the results of that census, how far the gospel had to go, just do a Google search, Roman Empire, census, and Jews doing 47 CE, that's the result of the census that took place in Luke 2:1. Alrighty, that's how far the gospel had to go. So this is about 7 years before that. So the gospel still going out. Okay, and so as person hears the gospel, either they came to Christ or they didn't. Okay, and that's why John warning them test the spirits in Christ, so that way when they go to the temple, they they can they had to discern, you know. And so that the man sin be revealed, son of perdition, who opposed and exalted himself above all that is called God, that worships that he is God, sits in the temple of God, showing himself that he's God. Remember not that when I was with you, I told you these things, and yet now you know that what was told he might be revealed in time. So it's kind of difficult to now you know what hold him. How can you behold something that's future yet, doesn't exist? Okay, so this is now at the time he's writing this. So for those of you that this is all about me, what's in for me. This is not about you directly. Alrighty, this had to do with the wrapping up in the entire Jewish age, destruction of the temple. Alrighty, so the mystery of iniquity does already work. Okay, blah blah blah, taken out of the way. Alright, she'll be wicked, and that wicked be revealed. Whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Okay, so there is some serious brightness, about a half an hour, took place in the temple that Josephus will get in that eventually. Okay, even him whose coming is after the work of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders. Okay, so let's see here. He called you by our gospel, so obviously they heard the gospel by this point. So yeah, so hopefully you get the feel of it here. He's writing to Church of Thessalonica concerning them, and you got believers, and now Thessalonica considered Jews and Gentiles, but so when it comes to the temple, issues of the temple, that really pricked the ears of the Jewish people. The Gentiles, they're elsewhere. They're serving God in other places. They're not going to go to the temple, okay, and be trying to save Jews. It could have been some, I don't know, but it's unlikely. So the Jewish people trying to help, that came to Christ, trying to help them. You read in Romans 9, very beginning, Paul says, "I wish I could be accursed, my brethren." Okay, you get the drift. So anyway, so going forward, so now you know what's going on there. Alrighty, and Lincoln dating, so it's around 50, 51 AD. Alrighty, so that's very important. So you kind of get a feel of setting. The gospel hasn't been fully preached yet, but by around, oh shoot, I have the break in there. The gospel will fully preach somewhere in this break. I apologize. Maybe that's kind of a significant, kind of where, yeah. Anyway, so then you had the Jewish revolt. Alrighty, so our hearts were hardened so much to the point. Remember, we have no king before Caesar. Okay, so Lord, the term title Messiah, the Prince part means ruler. Okay, so now Jesus is acting as ruler. Alrighty, and so he's allowing their hearts to harden. So it's getting to a point where now they have Jewish revolt, and so I was able to narrow down the range down to a total of 8 days. Yeah, it's based on what the timing of the sign in the sky and the timing of the bright light takes place. I pushed it back the range a little bit. So this suggests that see this article just says, if it comes up, okay, just said August 866. Doesn't give you any day. But just trying to compare the events in the timeline that God told them to have 100 years beforehand, it seemed to narrow it down to August 1 to 8th. So that's how he come up with that based on the timing event. So they're 1290 days here, and 1335, 45 days that the man stayed in the temple of God, and then I project that line up, and then so happened that Josephus catches them when they're fleeing, just as he's coming back, and then shortly after that, sign in the sky, and they have the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is interesting because this is the 40th year anniversary of Christ's Passover, or the day after. So that was April 5th in the Gregorian calendar, 70 AD. Okay, so the 40-year anniversary. Okay, and so those fleeing the mountains. I'm thinking the last day they had my April 4th right before that. So the Feast of Unleavened Bread said that no Christian Jews, none of them came to Christ. This was every single one of these that denied Christ in the flesh. Alrighty. So, but yeah. Anyway, Josephus was not there when the man was staying in the temple of God, but he was coming back, and so Ward 511. He's about roughly 56 miles away, roughly based on um, the Google Calendar today or Google Earth today, but obviously maps shift over time, so I had no idea what range, but the point is far away. And then I did the calculation for 521, where 521 is roughly 4 miles, and then they're at the gates of the city, and then they're within view of the temple, and then he so happens he catches them, and word 524, and word 525, catch them fleeing. So how do they know exactly what day? If you go back to Daniel chapter 12, 11 to 13, here, I'll just click on this for a second. And from the time that the daily sacrifice should be taken away, so that's the abominations, okay, from the time of cross to right here, where they stop, okay, like I showed you earlier, okay. The abomination that makes deadly set up, there's, okay, and the abomination that make deadly set up, okay. So you got the sacrifices, the abomination, plural, and the abomination, singular. Again, let's go back to here, which is parallel to Daniel 9:27. Overspreading abomination, plural, he should make it desolate. Okay, it's parallel to this right here. Okay, abominations, and then the abomination make it desolate. Okay, see how that connects? Alrighty. So yeah, just keep comparing that. You'll be able, hopefully make the connection. So there shall be 1,290 days, and bless you that waiteth and cometh to the 1,330 days. So how are they blessed? Twofold. One, they'll know exactly when to leave, right before that the flood comes into judgment. And again, they were Jewish people. They're trying to help each other out, and they probably saved some last minute souls. You know, even though they had already been preached the gospel earlier. But who knows? They probably saw, God probably gave them, you know, that last minute of initial point of salvation. Who knows? So yeah. Anyway, so that's what's going on here. So again, hopefully you see that connection. So so you have a 45-day difference when you do the math. So the man stood in the temple of God, okay, with the 1290 days. And then 45 days later, that's when they get the heck out of there. So there's a 45-day period when the man stood in the temple of God. Okay, so and before that, the Jerusalem surrounded. Okay, you can go to Luke 21:20. You see Jerusalem encompassed with army. Know that desolation there nigh. Okay, so that was late 69 AD. Okay. All right, so late 69 AD, right here. All right, Jerusalem surrounded the city. Okay, so you can read that on your own. Alrighty, so the siege began April 70 AD. Alrighty, so that fits with this calendar perfectly. Alrighty, so we project this up. Man stood in the temple of God, and then 45 days later. Alrighty, so it was April when the siege began. Okay, right in here. Alrighty, you just read. So they fled the mountains just in time, no later than April 4th. Okay, and then April 5th with the unleavened bread. Alrighty, and so then the siege began shortly after that. Alrighty, and then they saw they saw a sword, a star resembling sword. Alrighty, that's one of the signs. And then the sign in the sky. If you read Tacitus' histories, there have been seen hoist joining battle in the skies, imperial gleam of arms, the temple illuminated by a sudden radiance from the clouds. The doors of the inner shrine were suddenly thrown open, and a voice more than mortal was heard to cry that the gods were departing. At the same instant, there was mighty stir, the departure. Okay. So yeah, you can read that on your own. And then just here, let's see, where was it? Let's see here. 6 by 3. Okay, so 6 and then 5. Go to chapter 5 and then 3. Alrighty. So, yeah, this is what's interesting. So the unleavened bread on the 8th day of the month, Xanthicus Nisan, and at the ninth hour of the night. So this is interesting. Jesus died on the ninth hour of the day. This is ninth hour of the night. It's flipped 180 degrees. And so a great light shone around the altar and the holy house. Now, this is a feast of unleavened bread. This is the day. So if you go back 40 years prior, this is the day after crucifixion, right? So this is the day of a feast of unleavened bread. This is the day after the Passover, alrighty. And so ninth hour of the night. So great. This is like 2 to 3 a.m. That's a weird time. So greater light shone around the altar in the holy house that appeared to be bright day time, which light lasted for half an hour. Right. So, yeah. So it's pretty crazy. And so this is a very good possibility. Here it is, 40-year anniversary, and then the very next day, then feast on unleavened bread. The very first day of unleavened bread. It's actually a 7-day feast. So this is day 1, and that was a very good possibility that this is when the man stood in the temple of God. Alrighty, you have to keep in mind Josephus was not there; he was coming back. Alrighty, yeah. So false prophet. Okay, yeah. So yeah, talk about the deceivers. Remember what John said about deceivers are antichrist. Okay, they don't want to deny Christ coming to flesh. Paul said deceivers are the little of circumcision. You can write into Titus. Okay, so yeah, so there's a very good chance that was the day that the man stood in the temple of God died. So very real possibility. So or April 5th. Okay. Yeah, one of those 2 dates anyway. So yeah, see what else. Yeah, then they fled, and then they went to Pella, and they got out of there just in time. The believers, the Jews who came to Christ, so they helped them to the very end. And so yeah, so I can't give you names, but and backing up a little bit. Forgot to go over this. So a little bit of setting. So when Jesus said, "When you therefore see abomination, desolation," okay, that's when man stood in the temple of God. Okay, to stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. So in other words, be cognitive, and this is one thing they had to keep in mind: the 1290 days and the 45 days and when to leave. Okay, so that's what he's reminding them when he said, "Let them understand." So when they see the abomination, desolation, man stood in the temple of God, they do the 45-day countdown from there. Then, at the 45-day mark, then let them which is in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is in the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take clothes. So we need to look at the setting. Okay. So if we click on here, Acts 10:9. This is Peter on the morrow. As they went on their journey and drew nigh on the city, Peter went up on the housetop to pray about 6 hours. So that was the custom back then. That they would pray on the housetop. The housetops were flat, and they were close enough that you can actually run out of the city. All right. So when Jesus said, "Let them not go down," what he's saying is, get out of the city. So you can actually run out of the city that time. You go to Jerusalem today, it's not like this at all. Housetop being flat and the culture paying their rooftops. So a lot of people look at it, they think that, oh, this means it's the rapture or whatever. But if we pay attention to so much as the setting, it let alone getting original language and all that, all you have to do is just look at the setting. No, that's not what's going on here. So it's a type of judgment where you don't meet them in the air. It's a type of judgment where he allowed their heart to harden and pours where they get judgment, and repeated all throughout the Old Testament. And for some reason, Christians are just not willing to study it for whatever reason. I'm one of the lucky few that actually did take time to study it, and it all makes sense. I mean, it all comes together very nicely. So that's a very major obstacle when a believer chooses not to study the history of the judgment comings. So yeah, so from this point forward, no later than April 4th, 3.5 years, then brings to see. Yeah, that's pretty close. March to April. Okay. Yeah. So I didn't even check my dates, but yeah, it's pretty darn close. 42 months. So or 1260 days, whatever. So yeah, 3.5 years or whatever. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think that's about it. Yeah, so you can play with this PDF on your own. I'm going to keep updating the PDF as I go. Whenever I have extra time, whenever I have a rainy day, nothing to do. So I'll just keep updating this. So I hope you found this video helpful, and you have an awesome day. Thank you.